Hi there. As we approach opening day, which is tomorrow, quite excited. How about you? I don't like that glare, but it's okay. Anyway, got the hair out, so it's actually fitting for the channel with the fro. Today's video, been working on it today at work. Got some standings predictions, wins, losses. Well, the losses are implied, but anyway, some win totals and predictions for the season. American National. Just gonna do it all in one take, all in one video, because I don't want to be dragging this on. Already talked about one or two of the divisions, but this is more of a general overview. So, as well as the awards, can't forget the awards. So starting with the American League, which seems to be more wide open and less predictable. Let's go. Sorry, I'm in a park, so I'm kind of taking in my surroundings as I'm recording. Starting with the bad teams. White Sox, 49 wins. Nothing else to say about that. Watch their prospects. That's kind of the point at this point. At this stage of the rebuild. Next up, pretty big gap actually. There are two other teams that are slightly not as bad, but still really bad as the White Sox, but those are in the other league. So going to the next team in the American, we're going out west, which is the Angels, and then the A's at 63 and 67 respectively. Or 67 and 73, goodness gracious. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. So still got one more day to go. Anyway. After that, Blue Jays and Rays. These are all non-playoff teams, obviously. Because I think, well, we'll get to the totals. We're getting to the totals, but we're getting to this is where the playoff line and these are the serious contenders for playoff spots are. So we're taking those five and kind of discarding them. I've seen some people pick either whatever they're calling the A's at this point, as well as the Rays. Oh, I didn't say the totals for Toronto and Tampa. So Toronto I have at 78, Tampa I have at 79. Those are interchangeable. I think that overall, especially if some prospects are brought up, and I'm assuming Tiedemann's not pitching at all this year, that the Blue Jays were bad last year. I think people are not quite understanding that. And I'm not seeing how who they've brought in is going to equate to a 10-plus win jump. I have them at a +4. I have the Rays at -1, I believe it is, because I think they were 80 and 82. I think that's a little more realistic than saying, oh, well, there's no chance the Rays finish ahead, blah, blah, blah. Even if McClanahan doesn't, well, he's going to need a pitch for them to be decent enough. And they're going to have health issues and concerns, but every team does. You've seen how many guys have gone out. Anyway, enough talking about them. They're not relevant. Moving on, close to the playoffs, but not quite there. Detroit at 83. Actually, I skipped one. Texas at 82. That's a controversial one. Detroit at 83. Both Seattle and Minnesota at 84. And then we get to the playoff teams. So, actually, I'll keep going. Red Sox at 86 wins, Guardians at 86 wins, Orioles at 88 wins, Astros as well, but they're a division winner in this case at 86. So three teams at 86, Orioles and Royals at 88, Royals winning the Central, and then the Yankees at 90. That's a big grouping, and even including Seattle, Texas, Minnesota, Detroit. That's like a group of, 10 teams, all within not even 10 wins, all within about 8 or 9 wins. I don't know how realistic that is, but I do think that there's a big clump. None of them are dominant. At least that's the perception. And any of them could make the playoffs. So with, as I said, division winners, New York, Kansas City, Houston, wild cards, Baltimore, Cleveland, Boston. I have playoff predictions, but I don't know if I even want to get into that because I have the awards as well. Maybe we'll get into that in a minute. Let's go to the National League, get those win totals out of the way. Starting at the top, going to the bottom. Dodgers obviously got them at 103. That might be conservative actually because they finished with I think 99 last year, or was it 100? Or was it 101? Whatever. Doesn't really matter. They're gonna lead the entire league, and I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point. Will that equate to another World Series? That's the real question. We'll get to that in a bit. Next up, the Phillies. I have them finishing a game ahead of the Braves. To some extent, you want the bye, you want to win the division, but as we saw last year, that didn't really matter, seeing as the Mets knocked out the Phillies. Right after the Braves are the D-backs at 90 wins, which is only one above their total from last year. This is where it gets controversial. In the Central, I have the Cubs at 88 winning the division. So mind you, that's 2 wild cards already. So D-backs and Braves are 2 wild cards, with the division winners being Dodgers, Cubs, Phillies. The other wild card, the Brewers, meaning both the Mets and Padres will miss the playoffs. Now I have the Brewers at 87, Mets at 86, Padres at 85 wins. Yeah, that's I don't know the likelihood of that, but I wanted to pick something different because I think there's been this not weird, but this dismissal of the Brewers and this assumption that all the NL East teams are just going to make it and not have any issues over the course of the year, and that the D-backs are going to be slightly, literally 1 win better than what they were, which that's entirely possible. And I think the Montgomery injury, what does that even really mean? They have a rotation still. It's more about Merrill Kelly, the guys they have already, Eduardo coming back. Obviously, Burns and Gallen are fine. Fott, Nelson. So, yeah, the controversial pick here is the Mets missing the playoffs. I don't think it's too controversial or surprising to say the Padres will. It's a debate about, well, here's what I'll say about the Padres. I think if they actually win 85 games instead of, I think it was 92 or something like that last year, the disappointment, and this is going further down to the awards, but to spoil it a little, the disappointment is that unless they do have a fire sale, they'll have wasted the year if they don't make the playoffs. They've invested some. Guys are going to leave unless they're extended, which with the way the financials are going, I don't see that with Arise, King, Cease at this point. Darvish, aging by the day, missing time. Musgrove out for the year. No idea what you'll get from Hart or any of the other pitchers past Pivetta really in the rotation. Bullpen's good, maybe really good. Anyway, keeping going. Right after that, we've got the Reds, Giants, 82 and 81 respectively wins, which isn't bad. I don't think the expectations necessarily for the playoffs. Cardinals at 78, which who knows what they're doing. Pirates wrap up that division at 75, which that is a little disappointing, but again, the ownership hasn't done anything to fix the problems, which is akin to the Mariners, except I would say overall, the Mariners are in a slightly better division, but they do have more offense and a better overall staff, and maybe bullpen as well. So anyway, Nationals right after that at 73 wins. And then far back are the Rockies at 58, and the Marlins at 54. Don't hit me, dude. What are you doing? It's a little close there. And again, I think maybe this is controversial, maybe not, but for the Nationals, as an example, what you want to see is progress from the core. Whether that's 73 wins, whether that's 75 wins, whether that's 60 wins. With the Rockies and Marlins and White Sox, I think they're so bad that it doesn't really matter, and you're just trying to salvage whatever you can and try to build up your prospects. That's kind of the point of this season for those. We've gone 11 minutes. I'll just run through the playoffs real quick, just with what I have going by the win totals. So getting buys respectively in their leagues are the Yankees, the Royals, Dodgers, and Phillies. Wildcard round, I have Astros over Red Sox, Guardians over Orioles, if I could speak, and then D-backs over Cubs and Braves over Brewers. Again, these are just predictions. That's kind of, other than the Braves or the Brewers, which that's a matter of, from my perspective, the better team versus the better story. I think D-backs over Cubs is marginal. I mean, it's a two game difference in terms of what I'm predicting. Guardians over Orioles and Astros over Red Sox is kind of the worst case scenario, because the Guardians, that's the other part of this, is I don't see a situation where maybe, but I don't see a situation where both Cleveland and Milwaukee, given what they've been doing lately, are just going to fall off like the projections and predictions and all that are seeming to say. I don't see that happening. It's possible, but I don't think enough people are picking them as playoff teams. So carrying on, division series, I have this is not particularly interesting, but we're going through it. Braves over Phillies, that's a toss-up. Dodgers over D-backs, I don't think that's as much of a toss-up. I think the D-backs are worse. They're good, but they're just worse. And then back over to the AL again. I did pick the Royals over the Astros, so that'll be a positive. But I also have the Yankees over the Guardians again. And then, just like last year, Yankees end up in the World Series, beating the Royals. Kind of flipped those this time, where they beat the Royals in the Division Series and the Guardians in the Championship Series. We're flipping that, and they're back in the World Series. And again, I would love to pick the Braves or the Phillies or the D-backs, but the inevitable is more than likely the Dodgers, and then they'll beat the Yankees again. So that's what we have. Running through some awards. I created a couple of these awards. MVP, Judge and Ohtani, how boring. Cy Young, I'm going slightly against the grain here, because a lot of people will say Skubal and Skeens. I'm saying Reagans and Wheeler, respectively. Rookie of the Year, going with the Japanese guys, 35-year-old rookie Sagano, and then more traditional rookie Sasaki. Manager of the Year, since both will make the playoffs despite the odds apparently, is Vote and Council. That would be Cleveland and Milwaukee, respectively. Underrated, again, going with that theme, Jose Ramirez and William Contreras. Breakout, mostly rookies and younger guys. Well, that's kind of the point of breakout. I picked a pitcher and a hitter for each league. Jacob Wilson and Jackson Jobe in the AL. Pete Crow Armstrong and Spencer Swellenbach in the NL. And then Prospect Rise, I picked a pitcher and a hitter again. I picked one of Susana and Sakura from the Nationals, along with Zaire Hope from the Dodgers. That's the National. And then from the American, Angel Henao from the Guardians, and Grant Taylor from the White Sox. the main point with that was guys outside the top 50 of the MLB rankings, because it'll be boring to just say, oh, well, Sasaki's going to have a breakthrough or whatever, because he's not really a traditional prospect. From that perspective, they signed him the way they did. I mean, it is what it is. And then a surprise team, I'm going to add one because, again, I already discussed beating this dead horse now about the Guardians and Brewers. I had them as surprise teams. Another one, just based on these standings, would be would the Red Sox be a surprise? See, and that's where narratives come in. I think there aren't really any surprises based on how I put these, but I think that's realistic because I don't think to say the White Sox are going to win 60 games is realistic. I think that's crazy. I think any of the Marlins, Rockies, White Sox, even Angels winning more than they did last year by any significant margin seems crazy. The Angels, look at who's playing for the Angels right now. Look at that pitching staff. It's not good. It's pretty terrible. Mike Trout's probably going to get injured like he always does, or if he doesn't, he's just going to be the only one carrying the team. So, White Sox are terrible. They've probably gotten worse. Marlins have gotten worse. And if Sandy is not going to be there for the whole season, how many games are they winning? I said 54. I mean, maybe they'll get to like 58, whatever. Again, so disappointments for different reasons. I had the Padres as a slight disappointment, and then in this scenario, the Mets as a huge disappointment. Obviously, with the Juan Soto signing, to miss the playoffs would be pretty embarrassing. I think that'll come down to pitching, which picking the Brewers, there is an irony there in that they have their own pitching questions. But I don't know. That was just kind of an out-of-the-box pick because I kind of got bored of seeing who everyone's picking, and I went out of the box. And then in the AL, Texas, there's a theme here with all T's. Texas, Toronto, Twins, Tigers. I put the Tigers because they have Skubal. They went and got Flaherty back. They signed Cobb. They signed Glaber. But they didn't add enough offense. Skubal is awesome, but you wonder about the pen, the bottom of the rotation. Job will be awesome too, so. But that's relative. And then lastly, the Twins as well, the health issue, which I don't see that being fixed because already Royce Lewis is injured, as he always is. And then you have Buxton, who, just like Trout, has all the talent in the world but doesn't stay healthy. Toronto, like I've said a lot of times, that division is not. They finished with 74 wins. That's almost 20 games behind the Yankees. Actually, I think that is 20 games behind the Yankees. I think they were at 94 now it's 93. Whatever. Same difference. It was close to 20 games and then like 16 to 18 with the Orioles. So even if the Yankees and the Orioles regress slightly, the Red Sox are going to be better. The Rays should be about the same overall. You're not making up that ground. And the fact that, well, the only way that's not a disappointment is if they sign Vlad and figure out just where they're going. That's the only way that's not a disappointment. But still, to more or less go all in, to sign other guys, spend a lot of money, be like fifth in overall payroll and not make the playoffs again, that would be kind of pathetic. So that would be a disappointment. And then finally, as I said, Texas, they already have some pitching issues where they're having to sign. They signed Patrick Corbin the other day, which you don't want that. Both Rocker and Leiter are making the rotation, which that's cool. But again, that's a guy who's proven himself to be kind of bad, plus two unproven rookies. And then DeGrom, who's the ultimate wild card and has not had the health for years now. So again, that's a disaster waiting to happen again. I have them slightly better, but again, not making the playoffs is not good enough. And yeah, that's about it. Gone about 20 minutes. So if you're still here, thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.